Hey, welcome to another episode of Mike's Collection. I'm Mike, and the part of my collection that I'm going to be talking about today is the new toys that I purchased on a recent little road trip that I took earlier this week. So yeah, it's actually been pretty quiet last couple of weeks for toys. I haven't found anything locally around here. But this past Tuesday, I traveled from Halifax, Nova Scotia, where I live in Canada, over to the neighboring province, which is New Brunswick. And I was going to the city of Moncton to see a concert, which I'll talk about in a moment. And if you've watched my prior videos, I passed through Moncton maybe 2 months ago, because I was going to another concert in another city in New Brunswick. I was in St. John to see Interpol, which was a great show. Anyway, when we came back through Moncton, I had stopped at this store in Moncton called Spinet Records, and it is an awesome little store. If I lived in New Brunswick, I would be there every week for sure. I only get to go to New Brunswick, 2 to 3 times a year generally. It's a little over 2 hours away to get to Moncton, but this isn't the kind of store that I would go shopping for anything in particular. If there was something new coming out, I wouldn't necessarily think I need to go there to find it. I can usually buy stuff online or locally. But it's just one of those really cool stores that just has so much old random junk. They've just got cases and cases full of vintage Transformers and GoBots and Ninja Turtles and Wrestlers and Smurfs. And they've got, it's like 3 stores in one. There's a video store, and it looks like how all rental stores used to look in their prime. There's just rows and rows and rows of very specific categories, like by director and all this sort of stuff. It's like a really cool little video store, and it still seems to be thriving. And then there's a toy store full of all these old toys, and then there's a record store / video game store in the back. Again, it's what you'd expect from any cool little record store. Lots of vinyl, lots of t-shirts and patches and stuff. And there's also an arcade full of like old vintage arcade games and stuff. It's just a really cool store. And since I was going up to Moncton and I had some time to kill, because I went up there around lunchtime and the concert wasn't starting until later in the evening, so I knew I'd be going to Spinet Records, partly because when I went there a couple of months ago, I saw a particular action figure that I wanted. I didn't buy it then, and then I've been kind of kicking myself ever since. So I was like, I hope that's still there. So I knew I was going to go to the store regardless, but I definitely was going to get this one specific thing. And I intended to shoot some video while I was in there, so I could show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. But I kind of forgot to do that. And here's the thing. So the concert that I went up to Moncton to see was Our Lady Peace, which is, I think they're pretty big everywhere, but in Canada, they're a Canadian band. They're pretty huge up here. So it was Our Lady Peace, along with Live and Bush and another Canadian band called Deer Rouge. And I'm a fan of all of these bands, but I really like Bush. I've been a huge fan since the first time I ever heard them back in like 95 or whatever it was. Some people might think that, oh yeah, are they still together? Were they a one-hit wonder or whatever? Like, they had 2 like really popular CDs in the 90s, and they've put out quite a few since, and especially in recent years. They did break up for a while, and the lead singer Gavin was putting out music under another band name. But yeah, they've been Bush again for, 10 years or so. And yeah, they've been putting out albums pretty consistently. And I'm a fan of their current stuff, and I was really excited to see these guys. This was like a bucket list band for me. I got a Blu-ray concert of theirs maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and it was they played a lot of their recent material, and they still killed it. They all, looking great. Gavin is still fit, looking good, jumping around, very lively, crawling through the crowd. It just really made me excited to see these guys live. And so anyway, we pulled into Moncton, and we were driving down Main Street, and we were watching the GPS trying to figure out which hotel me and my wife Vanessa were staying in. So we're coming down Main Street, and then we realized on the GPS that, oh, that's our hotel right there. So Vanessa quickly pulled in to a parking spot on the side of the road, and we were going to just grab our things and go check into the hotel. And while she was fumbling around with her purse, I go to open the door, and I turn to the right of me, and Gavin Rossdale, the lead singer of Bush. And I realize if you're older than me or younger than me, you probably don't care. But, like I said, I was a teenager in the 90s. Gavin Rossdale was huge. You might know him better from the tabloids even. He was married to Gwen Stefani for a while. Anyway, I turn around and I see him sitting at a little cafe patio. It was a small patio with only 3 tables. He was the only one there. He was sitting by himself. He just had a little dog with him. And he was talking on his phone. And I turned around and I just kind of freaked out. I was a little starstruck for a second. I turned to Vanessa and I said, I think that's Gavin Rossdale right beside us. And she's like, shut up. No. And she looked and she's like, oh my God, it is. We had to get out of the car. We were kind of fumbling with coins to put them in the meter. And she was like, should we talk to him? And I was like, he's on the phone. Let's just leave him alone. We went into the hotel, got our keys. The hotel staff told us we could move our car around in the back and park in their lot. So we went back around to the front, got our car. Gavin was off the phone at this point. So, we kind of interrupted his brunch. He told us the eggs weren't very good. We asked him if we could get a picture with him. And, he obliged. Me and Vanessa kind of went in, and with Gavin in between us. And then Gavin said, no, you get in the middle. And he kind of shuffled Vanessa over, and he said, I'll take it. And he took Vanessa's phone, and he took a selfie of the 3 of us. We only spoke to him for a second or two. But he was very nice. He was very courteous of him to do that. And we were both giddy with excitement. Me, because I'm a huge Bush fan. They're one of my favorite bands. And her, because he's Gavin Rossdale and he's kind of a heartthrob. And we were both kind of geeking out. So we put our car in the lot, and then we went over to Spinet Records, and I went in and I grabbed the toy I intended to get, and I left. I really didn't spend a whole lot of time looking around just because I was still so loopy from getting to meet Gavin. Anyway, so after we hit up Spinet Records, we also then went to the mall. They have a Toys R Us there and an EB Games, like GameStop. And they have another record store in there that sells toys and stuff. So I picked up a few things along the way, and I got myself a nice little haul for the weekend. And then went to the concert that night, which was amazing. Let me first get into the toys. So at Spinet, this is what I had seen when I was there 2 months prior, when I was passing through after the Interpol concert. And this is a Masters of the Universe Classics Titus figure. Now, you might not be familiar with this character, and that would be understandable, because this figure, I'm actually blanking right now. I think Titus was a character that was intended for the vintage line, and I don't think he was ever produced or released at retail, or if he was, it was like at the very end and very limited. I can't remember which it was. Anyway, so when Masters of the Universe Classics remade this character in recent years, they went back and redid a couple of the giants that never really saw the light of day before. So this is Titus, and they also released Megator. So I didn't buy either of these giant characters, either Titus or Megator, because I just didn't feel they were necessarily essential to my collection. I wasn't familiar with them from when I was a kid. And when these guys came out initially for sale on Mattel's website, they were, I can't remember how expensive they were, but a regular figure, I think, was about $30 American, which was about 40 Canadian. And then the shipping was like $30 Canadian too. So one He-Man figure, a 6-inch figure, was costing me like $70. And these guys here were probably more along the lines of 50 American. So it would have been costing me like about 65 Canadian, plus it probably would have been 40 to ship this thing. And I'm paying $100 plus for a character that I didn't feel I needed. So he was one of the few that I skipped. I'm pretty close to a completist when it comes to Masters of the Universe classics, but there were the occasional character that I skipped. Now, I did eventually get Megator. I can't recall how, actually. I think I got him online, but it was a sale and he was very cheap. I think maybe $20. So yeah, I've had Megator in my collection for a while, and I never thought I'd come across Titus. So when I was passing through Moncton there a couple months ago, I saw Titus sitting there. He was priced at $50 Canadian, taxes in, no shipping required. And I was like, oh, should I get this guy? But I was a little strapped for cash. I just spent a lot of money drinking at the concert the night before, and I was like, I really shouldn't get this guy. I think it was also around the time I had just backed Bobby Vala's Kickstarter for Action Force, and I had a lot of money kind of tied up in that. Now, Action Force didn't pan out, and that didn't happen, and then that made it that much worse. That I'm like, I should have bought this damn thing. So anyway, I was fortunate that he was still there. So yeah, here's Titus. I will open this guy up in a second, and yeah, we'll take a look at him outside of the packaging. But the other things I'll just show you all the package stuff right here. So when we went to Toys R Us, I got this Black Series Luke Skywalker in Stormtrooper outfit, and this is specifically what they call Death Star Escape. You'll see his hair is kind of slicked back and he's pretty grubby. That's because this is him in the trash compactor scene from the original Star Wars. And then I also got Officer K from Blade Runner 2049. He was actually the only character I didn't get from the six-figure lineup. I've had the other guys for a year or whenever these things first came out. But yeah, I never got him. And so now I did, because he was marked down to $5, which was pretty sweet. So I got him at the record store in the mall. And lastly, from the EB Games, I got the Sticky Note Man, which is the guy from the movie poster and the cover box of the movie Office Space. And I have the other Office Space characters already. They're all sitting at my on my desk at work. So yeah, he was a pretty cool find too. So let's pop all these guys open and take a look at them. So here is Titus and his big silly weapon that I don't understand. So yeah, he looks like a pretty typical barbarian type character. Very He-Man like he definitely fits into the He-Man world. And I think it's pretty cool to have these giant characters. It seems like a real shame these guys didn't make it into the mainstream vintage line, as they probably would have been a lot of fun. So let's spin him around, take a look at him a little bit. So design is pretty basic. You know, it's kind of the loincloth and the chest armor, as you'd expect to see on most characters in the Masters of the Universe world. He's got that cool kind of armored crown. It's sculpted right on his head, so that does not come off. His armor looks like it would be removable, but maybe not easy to remove. It's at least a separate sculpted piece. Yeah, I really don't understand what this thing is supposed to be. I had to snap this kind of barrel onto the end of this, I guess, gun handle. I don't know. It looks like some complicated way of making coffee or something. But just to give you an idea of how big this figure is, I've brought over one of the standard Masters of the Universe figures here. So there's Man-at-Arms at the 6-inch scale. And yeah, you can see that Megator here is pretty much double the size. So I'd say, yeah, he's about 12 inches or so. And yeah, he just seems really cool. I would have had a lot of fun playing with these giants when I was a kid, if they had actually come out when I was collecting Masters of the Universe figures. I'm going to set this down here and we'll take a look at the articulation a little bit. It's hard to get him on screen here, but alright, so we'll slide his weapon out of his hand there. So, standard bend at the elbow, swivel at the wrist. Kind of a weird thing going on there in his inner arm. These little nodules there. It doesn't really feel like there's a whole lot of movement there. So I was expecting ball joints, but yeah, I don't really want to force them. So yeah, turns the elbow, wrist, swivels at the waist. Legs, can bring them forward a little bit. There's not a ton of movement there. A good bend at the knee. Nothing at the ankles. And then yeah, spins at the neck, but not a whole lot. Can't look up or down. Urgh. So yeah, he's a relatively stiff figure. So that's maybe kind of unfortunate. But these are all just display pieces for me anyway. So I'm sure once I get him set up in the display, he'll look really cool over here with Megator and Procrustes over there. So yeah, a nice addition to my Masters of the Universe collection. So that is Titus. So here is Luke Skywalker, Death Star Escape. Just take a quick look at him again inside the packaging. You can see the artwork is unique to him being in the trash compactor as well. His hair is all slicked back. So yeah, let's pop this guy open and take a look at him. Okay, so here is Death Star Escape Luke outside of the package. And yeah, it's pretty straightforward Stormtrooper body. For accessories, he comes with the blaster there, and it can be put in his holster on the back. He also comes with this thing, which I'm sure to lose. This is his little communicator that he was screaming at C-3PO at when he was getting crushed in the trash compactor. He's got this display base, which I don't love these bases. They seem to include them with the current offering of figures, where one foot slides in there, but then the other foot is kind of left dangling. It's really not great. You'd think Mattel would have figured out display bases by now, but whatever. It's better than nothing, I suppose. And lastly, he has his Stormtrooper helmet, which fits on there pretty good. So you'll see Luke here is adequately muddy since he was in a trash compactor. But the thing about this figure, when I saw it, so I saw it at the Toys R Us in Moncton the other day, and I wasn't even aware of this figure. It was the only one there, and I didn't really want to buy it because I already have this figure. Now this is Luke as a Stormtrooper with a removable helmet. You'll see his face is different. His hair is not wet in this one here. So this figure came out pretty early on in the Star Wars Black Series. So it's from a pretty specific scene in the first Star Wars movie when Luke and Han dress up as Stormtroopers to go rescue Princess Leia. Now, normally, I wouldn't really want to buy a figure for such a specific scene because it doesn't really have... I don't know, I still think in terms of play value. Now, mind you, I don't play with these toys, but as a kid, I didn't necessarily think I would need this figure because it only, took up a couple of minutes of screen time during the movie. This is not an outfit Luke would normally run around in. But in this case here, with the removable helmet, I didn't mind buying this Luke because I can just display him as another Stormtrooper, and I like building armies of Stormtroopers. So when I saw this figure, I thought it was equally kind of redundant. The fact that they just gave us another Luke with wet hair seemed a little silly to me. But again, I justified it by saying, well, this is just another Stormtrooper, and he's a muddy Stormtrooper. The mud effect looks pretty cool, actually, pretty believable. So I thought, what the hell, I'll get another Stormtrooper, and that'll be okay. But yeah, also this figure was, from what I understand, a Target exclusive, which we don't have Targets at least not in Atlantic Canada. But we do still have Toys R Us, which a lot of people don't have in the States anymore. So I'm not sure how Toys R Us got a hold of it here. I guess they had some sort of deal to take on the Target exclusive. So I thought, well, if I don't buy it, it's the only one. I might be kicking myself about it later. So what the hell? I was pleasantly surprised to see that it was actually marked down. It didn't have a markdown sticker on it, but when I brought it up to the counter, it was actually $10 off. So then I felt a lot better about doing it. But yeah, it's a cool figure. Any of these Stormtrooper figures I like. The Stormtroopers are just a great looking, trooper type. And yeah, this mud effect looks really good. So this is how I'll display them. I don't really care that Luke Skywalker's head is underneath there. The helmet, comes on and off really good. Takes a little bit of push to get it on there right, but the helmet doesn't look oversized or anything. It looks really good. So yeah, not a bad figure, especially at a discount. So this is Officer K, as played by Ryan Gosling in Blade Runner 2049. Now, I will tell you, I absolutely loved Blade Runner 2049. And I'm not even a huge fan of the first Blade Runner. I like it enough, and I have the Blu-ray of it. But it's not, one of those movies from the 80s that I hold in really high regard. Like, I grew up on the Rocky movies, and I like, Star Wars and stuff, obviously. Predator, I love. But yeah, Blade Runner just wasn't one of those movies that really did it for me as a kid. It wasn't until I was an adult that I came to appreciate it more. But I thought 2049 was actually superior than the original. I loved it. So this figure here, I guess it's a decent representation of what Agent K looked like. But my only problem is if I put this on my desk at work, nobody is going to know who the hell this is. That's the problem with these Funko Pops. Unless the character has something really iconic about them, like say a Batman, you can recognize a Batman immediately. Or somebody that's got a crazy hat or crazy glasses or something. But Officer K has basically no distinguishing features. Perhaps his gun is really unique, or his jacket, but it looks just like a pretty typical jacket to me. The haircut, he doesn't have any scars or anything too crazy. So even though I love Blade Runner 2049, when the figures first came out, the only one I bought was this guy here, which is the Jared Leto character, because I loved those kind of glassy eyes and the beard and the sandals. I realize if I put this on my desk at work, still 99% of the people that walk by and pick this thing up won't know who that is. But if you know the movie, you would know who this is. I still don't think that's the case with Agent K. So this was the first one I bought. And I did eventually buy the other characters from the movie. So there's Joy. She's a little hard to guess as well, but she does have that kind of translucent raincoat, which was kind of a memorable costume. Then you've got Love. And again, on her own, she might not have been that memorable a character. So they took these goggles, even though she only wore these for one scene in a movie to control the drone. But they knew by putting those on her that would make her more recognizable. So we got her. And this character, Sapper, is played by Dave Bautista. Isn't super recognizable either. But I love Bautista. And even though this was only really one scene with this character at the start of the movie, I loved that scene. It really kind of set the stage for the kind of movie we were going to get. So I got all of them. But these are not the strongest of pop figures just because they're not immediately recognizable as the characters they are. For example, if you put Agent K next to my Mad Max from Fury Road, they look pretty similar. They both got the same kind of 5 o'clock shadow, kind of messed up hair, jacket, boots, gun. If I had displayed this figure with my other Blade Runner figures, and people asked me who those figures were, and I say, oh, it's the cast of Blade Runner 2049, I don't think anybody would have questioned it. They would have just said, oh yeah, I see it now. That guy looks like Ryan Gosling. But not so much. Anyway, I did avoid this character, this figure, for a long while. So to find him for $5 I figured, what the hell, I might as well have the whole set. Plus, I just recently rewatched Blade Runner 2049, like literally like a week and a half ago. And as I was watching it, I had a little bit of a regret that I did not pick up this figure when I did, because I'm not interested in like any 6-inch photorealistic versions of this character necessarily. But I do like to have some representation of a movie that I really love on my shelf. So considering I had all the rest of the cast, I was like, you know what? I maybe should have bought that Agent K. But now that movie's kind of old, I don't know if I'll find it anywhere. So yeah, to go to the record store in Moncton and find this guy for $5 was actually pretty sweet. So yeah, not a bad figure. I just wish it was a little more distinct. I just realized I forgot to show you my Deckard figure. This is the Harrison Ford character from Blade Runner as well. And I also struggled with buying this one because this could have just as easily been a George Clooney figure or something. But I got this one a while back because it was on sale as well. But same thing as the Ryan Gosling figure. Just not really unique enough. So here's the character they call Sticky Note Man outside of the packaging. So this character here, if you've ever seen Office Space, it's not an actual character from the movie. It was just kind of an idea, I guess, to make a funny movie poster. And I'm not sure if the little post-it notes that they have here are accurate. So ones that say out to lunch, get oil changed today, get chair fixed. Those might be the same post-its that are actually on the character in the movie. I don't know. I've never looked at it that closely. Anyway, it's kind of funny that they actually took this joke character and made it into an action figure, but I guess I shouldn't be surprised because Funko seems to make just about anything into an action figure. And yeah, it's a fun looking character. It's something different. And yeah, I think he'll be pretty cool on my desk at work. So that's my new stuff from my road trip to Moncton. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and yeah, hopefully I'll be back again soon with some more new purchases to show you. So until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.